And thanks so much for tuning into the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. We are continuing on in Genesis chapter 43. Pick up the story. We kind of ended on a cliffhanger there, where the brothers now of Joseph, they came back months later, right? Joseph gave them the sacks of grain and put money in it, their money back in it so they didn't have to pay for it. Jacob finds out and was like, oh my goodness, like, hey, the grain is gone, but what you're going to need to do is you need to go back there, get some more grain. And he does agree to bring Benjamin, even though reluctantly he didn't want to, but he goes above and beyond because he wants his sons to represent well. And we talked about that yesterday and how living a life of integrity, the things that we do, it actually matters. And so I want to encourage you to continue. Let's continue to live a life of integrity, living a life, as the Bible says, worthy of the calling that God has for us. Well, let's pick up the story because now as they came back, now they got presented and now presented to the place, and they're like, hey, let's go. And they were escorted to Joseph's palace. And they were a little bit scared, and as far as like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen now. Well, let's discover that together, starting in verse 19 of Genesis chapter 43. The brothers approached the manager of Joseph's household and spoke to him at the entrance of the palace. Sir, they said, we came to Egypt once before to buy food. But as we were returning home, we stopped for the night and opened up our sacks. Then we discovered that each man's money, the exact paid, was on top of his sack. Here it is. We have brought it back with us. We also have additional money to buy more food. We have no idea who put our money in our sacks. And so, what do the brothers do? The brothers do exactly what their father told them to do. And we're open, we're honest, and said, hey, we have no idea how this happened. This was not our doing. Maybe it was an accident, but we want to give it back to you. And on top of giving back what was presented to it, what we discovered, we have double the amount. Now listen, this is key right here and crucial. An interesting detail that the Bible describes, verse 23. Relax, don't be afraid. The household manager told them, your God, the God of your father, must have put this treasure into your sacks. I know I received your payment. Then he released Simeon and brought them out to them. Very interesting, because culturally and in Egypt was not a God-fearing nation. Actually, it was the opposite. And yet the manager of the household, Joseph's manager, said, I received your payment. The God of your father must have provided it for you. So interesting. And it really speaks to God's provision, because ultimately everything that we have is his. And ultimately that we will get is from him. And so if we can acknowledge that, if we can acknowledge that all the resources, all the giftings, the talents, the abilities that you and I have were graciously given to us by our Creator, I think that we would be able to steward them in a better way, rather than trying to own them, rather than trying to use the things that we have for our own selfish gain. But if we actually understand whose they are, where they came from, and that we have the ability to receive more from him, we would be able to be a better steward of what he has entrusted to us. Because the Bible says that when we are faithful with little, God will give us more. And so I want that to be not only a promise to you, I want that to be a lifestyle for you, that you are faithful and that you are a good steward of what God has entrusted to you. Because like I said earlier, God is preparing you, just like how was preparing Joseph for the time that he is in leadership right now as we are reading this. And it goes back to, what is God preparing you for? And are you a good, faithful steward, servant of what he has entrusted to you? And so that was a side note. All right, let's get back into Genesis 43. And so the manager then led the men into Joseph's palace. He gave them water to wash their feet and provided food for their donkeys. They were told that they were been eating there, so they prepared their gifts for Joseph's arrival at noon. When Joseph came home, he gave them the gifts they had brought him. They bowed low to the ground before him. After greeting them, he asked them, "How is your father? The old man that you spoke about, is he still alive?" "Yes," they replied, "our father, your servant, is alive and well." And they bowed low again. Interesting. Now, Joseph, obviously having a heart for his father, Jacob discovers that his father is still living. I can't imagine what he's thinking, what he's feeling inside. He hasn't revealed to his brothers who he is. He's just and he's asking strategic questions. And we'll pick up tomorrow about what happens now in the palace. But out today, as what I shared earlier about God's provision and about our faithfulness, what do we need to do today to be a better steward of what God has entrusted to us? See, God has opportunities for us all the time. He is presenting opportunities for us to be a better representation of who he is, to be his ambassadors, to be kind, to be generous, to be loving, to be caring, to be compassionate. God is continuing to give us opportunities because he has entrusted to us to be his salt and light, to be his hands and feet. And so today, would you look for opportunities to do that? Now, if you're watching this at the very end of the night, would you reflect back on your day? And would you look and maybe see those opportunities that God had for you? How did you do? How did you represent him? If you're watching this in the midday or the beginning of the day, would you now pray? And would you ask God for boldness and an awareness of those opportunities so that you can do something about it, that you can sow seeds, that you can water that seed of being his hands and feet, of being his ambassadors today. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in today. Make sure you tune in tomorrow from the Daily Dose for spiritual growth.